Kamusta? Ako si Joy at kayo ay nakikinig sa Yes, We Can Read, kung saan ang pagbabasa ay hindi lang sa mata, kundi pinapakinggan din at dinarama. Ako ang inyong makakasama sa episode 2 ng Yes, We Can Read, The Little Prince. Ngayong araw, ang ating babasahin ay ang chapters 10 to 19. Ngunit bago tayo magsimula, ano nga bang nangyari sa ating munting prinsipe?
Noong nakaraang episode, napakinggan natin kung paanong muling napaisip ang piloto dahil sa natatanging kuriosidad ng munting prinsipe. Ngunit kasabay nito, sa unti-unti niyang pagkakilala sa Rosas, naharap niya ang sarili niyang limitasyon, ang tunay na pasensya at nararapat na pag-unawa. Sa kanyang paglalakbay, mahahanap kaya ng munting prinsipe ang mga sagot sa iba't ibang planeta o patuloy siyang bibuguin ng mga kakilala niya.
He found himself in the neighborhood of the asteroids 325, 326, 327, 328, 329, and 330. He began therefore by visiting them in order to add to his knowledge. The first of them was inhabited by a king, clad in royal purple and ermine. He was seated upon a throne, which was at the same time both simple and majestic. "Ah, here's a subject," exclaimed the king, when he saw the little prince coming. And the little prince asked himself, how could he recognize me when he had never seen me before? He did not know how the world is simplified for kings. To them, all men are subjects. "Approach, so that I may see you better," said the king, who felt consumingly proud of at least being a king over somebody. The little prince looked everywhere to find a place to sit down, but the entire planet was crammed and obstructed by the king's magnificent ermine robe. So he remained standing upright, and since he was tired, he yawned. "It is contrary to etiquette to yawn in the presence of a king," the monarch said to him. I forbid you to do so." "I can't help it. I can't stop myself," replied the little king, thoroughly embarrassed. "I have come on a long journey, and I have had no sleep." "Ah, then," said the king, "I order you to yawn. It is years since I have seen anyone yawning. Yawns, to me, are subjects of curiosity. Come now, yawn again. It is an order." "That frightens me. I cannot any more," murmured the little prince, now completely abashed. "Hm," replied the king. "Then I order you to sometimes yawn and sometimes to—" He spluttered a little and seemed vexed, for what the king fundamentally insisted upon was that his authority should be respected. He tolerated no disobedience. He was an absolute monarch, but because he was a very good man, he made his orders reasonable. "If I ordered a general," he would say, by way of example, "if I ordered a general to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not obey me, that would not be the general's fault. It would be my fault." "May I sit down?" came now a timid inquiry from the little prince. "I order you to do so," the king answered him, and majestically gathered in a fold of his ermine mantle. But the little prince was wondering. The planet was tiny. Over what could the king really rule? "Sire," he said to him, "I beg that you will excuse my asking you a question." "I order you to ask me a question," the king hastened to assure him. "Sire, over what do you rule?" "Over everything," said the king with magnificent simplicity. "Over everything?" The king made a gesture, which he took in his planet, the other planets, and all the stars. "Over all that?" asked the little prince. "Over all that," the king answered. For his rule was not only absolute, it was also universal. "And the stars obey you?" "Certainly they do," the king said. "They obey instantly. I do not permit insubordination." Such power was a thing for the little prince to marvel at. If he had been master of such complete authority, he would have been able to watch the sunset not 44 times in one day, but 72, or even 100, or even 200 times, without ever having to move his chair. And because he felt a bit sad as he remembered his little planet which he had forsaken, he plucked up his courage to ask the king a favor. "I should like to see a sunset. Do me that kindness. Order the sun to set." "If I ordered a general to fly from one flower to another, like a butterfly, or to write a tragic drama, or to change himself into a seabird, and if the general did not carry on that order, which one of us would be in the wrong?" the king demanded. "The general or myself?" "You," said the prince firmly. "Exactly. One must require from each one the duty to which one can perform," the king went on. "Accepted authority rests first of all on all reason. If you ordered your people to go and throw themselves into the sea, they would rise up in revolution. I have the right to require obedience because my orders are reasonable. Then my son said, the little prince reminded him, for he never forgot a question once he had asked him. You shall have your sunset, I shall command it. But according to my science of government, I shall wait until the conditions are favorable. When will that be? Inquired the little prince. Replied the king, and before saying anything, he consulted a bulky almanac. That will be that will be this evening, about 20 minutes to 8, and you will see how well I am obeyed. The little prince yawned. He was regretting his lost sunset, and then, too, he was already beginning to be a little bored. I have nothing more to do here, he said to the king, so I shall set on my way again. Don't go, said the king, which was a very proud-having subject. Don't go, I will make you a minister. Minister of what? Minister of justice. But there's nobody here to judge. We do not know that, said the king to him. I have not yet made a complete tour of my kingdom. I am very old. There is no room here for a carriage, and it tires me to walk. Oh, but I have looked already, said the little prince, turning around to give one more glance at the other side of the planet. On that side, as on this, there was nobody at all. Then you shall judge yourself, the king answered. That is the most difficult thing of all. It is much more difficult to judge oneself than to judge others. If you succeed in judging yourself rightly, then you are indeed a man of true wisdom. Yes, said the little prince, but I can judge myself anywhere. I do not need to live on this planet. Said the king. I have good reason to believe that somewhere on my planet there is an old rat. I hear him at night. You can judge this old rat. From time to time, you will condemn him to death. Thus, his life will depend on your justice, but you will pardon him on each occasion, for he must be treated thriftily. He is the only one we have. I, replied the little prince, do not like to condemn anyone to death. And now, I think I will go on my way. No, said the king. But the little prince, having now completed his preparations for departure, had no wish to grieve the old monarch. If your majesty wishes to promptly be obeyed, he said, he should be able to give me a reasonable order. He should be able, for example, to order me to be gone by the end of 1 minute. It seems to me that the conditions are favorable. As the king made no answer, the little prince hesitated. Then, with a sigh, he took his leave. I make you my ambassador, the king called out hastily. He made a magnificent air of authority. The grown-ups are very strange, the little prince said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The second planet was inhabited by a conceited man. Ha! I'm about to receive a visit from an admirer, he exclaimed, from afar, when he first saw the little prince. For to conceited man, all other men are admirers. Good morning, said the little prince. That is a hat you are wearing. It is a hat for salutes, the conceited man replied. It is to raise and salute when people acclaim me. Unfortunately, nobody at all passes this way. Yes, said the little prince, who did not understand what the conceited man was talking about. Clap your hands, one against the other, and the conceited man now directed him. The little prince clapped his hands. The conceited man raised his hat in a modest salute. This is more entertaining than the visit to the king, the little prince said to himself, and he began again to clap his hands one against the other. The conceited man again raised his hat in salute. After 5 minutes of this exercise, the little prince grew tired of the game's monotony. And what should one do to make the hat come down? He asked. But the conceited man did not hear him. Conceited people never hear anything but praise. Do you really admire me very much? He demanded of the little prince. What does that mean? Admire. To admire means that you regard me as the handsomest, the best dressed, the richest, and the most intelligent man on this planet. But you are the only man on your planet. Do me this kindness. Admire me just the same. I admire you, said the little prince, shrugging his shoulders slightly. But what is there in that interests you so much? And the little prince went away. The grown-ups are certainly very odd, he said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The next planet was inhabited by a tippler. This was a very short visit, but it plunged the little prince into deep dejection. What are you doing there? He said to the tippler, whom he found settled down in silence before a collection of empty bottles and also a collection of full bottles. I'm drinking, replied the tippler, with a lugubrious air. Why are you drinking? Demanded the little prince. So that I may forget, replied the tippler. Forget what? Inquired the little prince, who was already sorry for him. Forget that I am ashamed, The tippler confessed, hanging his head. Ashamed of what? Insisted the little prince, who wanted to help him. Ashamed of drinking! The tippler brought his speech to an end, and shut himself up in an impregnable silence. And the little prince went away, puzzled. The grown-ups are certainly very, very odd, he said to himself, as he continued on his journey. The fourth planet belonged to a businessman. This man was so much occupied that he did not even raise his head at the little prince's arrival. "Good morning," the little prince said to him. "Your cigarette has gone out. 3 and 2 make 5, 5 and 7 make 12, 12 and 3 make 15. Good morning. 15 and 7 make 22, 22 and 6 make 28. I haven't time to light it again. 26 and 5 make 31. Phew! Then that makes 531,622,731. 500 million what?" asked the little prince. You're still here? 501 million? I can't stop. I have so much to do. I am cornered with matters of consequence. I don't amuse myself with balderdash. 2 and 5 make 7. 501 million what? Repeated the little prince, who never in his life had to let go of a question once he had asked it. The businessman raised his head. "During the 554 years that I have inhabited this planet, I have been disturbed only 3 times. The first time was 22 years ago, when some giddy goose fell from goodness knows where. He made the most frightful noise that resounded all over the place, and I made 4 mistakes in my addition. The second time, 11 years ago, I was disturbed by an attack of rheumatism. I did not have enough exercise. I have no time for loafing. The third time, well, this is it. I was saying, then 501 million. Millions of what? The businessman suddenly realized that there was no escape of being left in peace until he answered this question. "Millions of those little tiny objects," he said, "which sometimes see in the sky. Flies? Oh no, little glittering objects. These? Oh no, little golden objects that set lazy men in idle dreaming. As for me, I am concerned with matters of consequence. There is no time for idle dreaming in my life." "Ah, you mean the stars?" "Yes, that's it, the stars. And what do you do with 500 million of stars?" 501,622,731. I am concerned with the matters of consequence. I am accurate. "And what do you do with these stars?" "What do I do with them?" "Yes, nothing. I own them." "You own the stars?" "Yes, but I have already seen a king who kings do not own, they reign over. It's a very different matter." "And what good does it do to you to own the stars?" "It does me the good of making me rich." "And what good does it do to make you rich?" "It makes it possible for me to buy more stars, and if any are discovered." This man, the poor little prince said to himself, reasons like my poor tippler. Nevertheless, he still had some more questions. How is it possible for one to own the stars? To whom do they belong? The businessman retorted peevishly. "I don't know. To nobody." "Then they belong to me, because I was the first person to think of it." "Is that all that is necessary?" "Certainly. When you find a diamond that belongs to nobody, it is yours. When you discover an island that belongs to nobody, it is yours. And when you get an idea before anyone else, you take out a patent on it, it is yours. So with me, I own the stars, because nobody else before me ever thought of owning them." "Yes, that is true," said the little prince. "And what do you do with them?" "I administer them," replied the businessman. "I count them and recount them again. It is difficult, but I am a man who is naturally interested in matters of consequence." The little prince was not satisfied. "If I owned a silk scarf," he said, "I could put it around my neck and take it away with me. If I owned a flower, I could pluck that flower and take it away with me. But you cannot pluck the stars from the heaven." "No, but I can put them in the bank." "What does that even mean?" "That means I write the number of my stars on a little paper, then I put this paper in a drawer and lock it with a key." "And that is all?" "That is enough," said the businessman. "It is entertaining," thought the little prince. "It is rather poetic, but it is of no great consequence." On matters of consequence, the little prince had ideas which were very different from those of the grown-ups. "I myself own a flower," he continued his conversation with the businessman, "which I water every day. I own 3 volcanoes, which I clean out every week, for I also clean out the one that is extinct. No one ever knows. It is of some use to my volcanoes, and it is some use to my flower, that I own them. But you are no use to the stars." The businessman opened his mouth, but he found nothing to say in answer, and the little prince went away. The grown-ups are certainly altogether extraordinary. he said, simply talking to himself, as he continued on his journey. The fifth planet was very strange. It was the smallest of all. There was just enough room on it for a street lamp and a lamplighter. The little prince was not able to reach any explanation of the use of a street lamp and a lamplighter. Somewhere in the heavens, on a planet which was so small that it had no people and not one house. But he said to himself, nevertheless, "It may well be that this man is absurd, but he is not so absurd as the king, the conceited man, the businessman, and the tippler, for at least his work has some meaning. When he lights his street lamp, it is as if he brought light one more to the sky, or one flower. He puts out his lamp, he sends the flower or the star to sleep. That is a beautiful occupation, and since it is beautiful, it is truly useful." When he arrived on his planet, he respectfully saluted the lamplighter. "Good morning, sir. Have you just put out your lamp?" "Those are the orders," the lamplighter said. "Good morning." "What are the orders?" "The orders that I put out my lamp. Good evening." And he lighted his lamp again. "But why have you just lighted it again?" "Those are the orders," replied the lamplighter. "I don't understand," said the little prince. "There is nothing to understand," said the lamplighter. "Orders are orders. Good morning." And he put out his lamp. And then he mopped his forehead with a handkerchief decorated with red squares. "I follow a terrible profession. In the old days, it was reasonable. I put the lamp out in the morning, and in the evening, I lighted it again. I had the rest of the day for relaxation and the rest of the night for sleep. And the orders have been changed since that time?" "The orders have not been changed," said the lamplighter. "That is the tragedy. From year to year, the planet has turned out more rapidly, and the orders have not been changed." "Then what?" asked the little prince. "Then the planet now makes a complete turn every minute, and I no longer have a single second for repose. Once every minute, I have to light my lamp and put it out." "That is very funny. A day lasts only 1 minute. Here where you live, it's not funny at all," said the lamplighter. "While we have been talking together, a month has gone by." "A month?" "Yes, a month. 30 minutes, 30 days, good evening." And he lighted his lamp again. As the little prince watched him, he felt that he loved this lamplighter, who was so faithful to his orders. He remembered that sunsets which he himself had gone to seek in other days merely be pulling up by his chair, and he wanted to help the friend. "You know," he said, "I can tell you a way you can rest whenever you wanted to." "I always want to rest," said the lamplighter, "for it is possible for a man to be faithful and lazy at the same time." The little prince went on with his explanation. "Your planet is so small that 3 strides will take you all the way around it. To always be in the sunshine, you need to walk rather slowly. When you want to rest, you will walk, and the day will last as long as you like." "That doesn't do me much good," said the lamplighter. "The one thing I love in my life is sleep." "Then you're unlucky," said the little prince. "I am unlucky," said the lamplighter. "Good morning," and he put out his lamp. "That man," said the little prince to himself, as he continued further away on his journey, "that man would be scorned by all the others, by the king, by the conceited man, by the tippler, by the businessman. Nevertheless, he is the only one of them who does not seem to me ridiculous. Perhaps that is because he is thinking of something else besides himself." He breathed a sigh of regret and said to himself again, "That man is the only one of them who I could have made my friend, but his planet is indeed too small. There is no room on it for 2 people." What the little prince did not dare confess was that he was sorry, most of all, to leave this planet, because it was blessed every day with 1,440 sunsets. The sixth planet was 10 times larger than the last one. It was inhabited by an old gentleman who wrote voluminous books. "Oh, look, here is an explorer," he exclaimed to himself when he saw the little prince coming. The little prince sat down on the table and panted a little. He had already traveled so much and so far. "Where do you come from?" the old gentleman said to him. "What is that big book?" said the little prince. "What are you doing?" "I am a geographer," said the gentleman. "What is a geographer?" asked the little prince. "A geographer is a scholar who knows the locations of all the seas, rivers, towns, mountains, and deserts." "That is very interesting," said the little prince. "Here at last is a man who has a real profession." And he cast a look around him at the planet of the geographer. It was the most magnificent and stately planet that he had ever seen. "Your planet is very beautiful," he said. "Has it any oceans?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. "Ah," the little prince was disappointed. "Has it any mountains?" "I couldn't tell you," said the geographer. "And towns and rivers and deserts?" I couldn't tell you that either. But you are a geographer. Exactly, the geographer said. But I am not an explorer. I haven't a single explorer on my planet. It is not the geographer who goes out to count the towns, the rivers, the mountains, the seas, the oceans, and the deserts. The geographer is much too important to go loafing about. He does not leave his desk, but he receives the explorers in his study. He asks them questions, and he notes down what they recall of their travels. And if the recollections of anyone among them seem interesting to him, the geographer orders an inquiry into the explorer's moral character. Why is that? Because an explorer who told lies would bring disaster on the books of the geographer. So would an explorer who drank too much. Why is that? Asked the little prince. Because intoxicated men see double. Then the geographer would note down 2 mountains in a place where there was only one. I know someone, said the little prince, who would make a bad explorer. That is possible then. When moral character is shown to be good, an inquiry is ordered into his discovery. One goes to see it? No, that would be too complicated. But one requires the explorer to furnish proofs. For example, if the discovery in question is that of a large mountain, one requires that large stones be brought back from it. The geographer was suddenly stirred to excitement. But you come from far away. You are an explorer. You shall describe your planet to me. And, having opened his big register, the geographer sharpened his pencil. The recitals of the explorers are put down first in pencil. One waits until the explorer has furnished proofs before putting them down in ink. Well, said the geographer expectantly. Oh, where I live, said the little prince. It is not very interesting. It is all so small. I have 3 volcanoes. 2 volcanoes are active and others extinct. But one never knows. One never knows, said the geographer. I also have a flower. We don't record flowers, said the geographer. Why is that? The flower is the most beautiful thing on my planet. We do not record them, said the geographer, because they are ephemeral. What does that mean? Ephemeral. Geographies, said the geographer, are the books which, of all books, are most concerned with matters of consequence. They never become old-fashioned. It is very rarely that a mountain changes its position. It is very rarely that an ocean empties itself of its waters. You write of eternal things. But extinct volcanoes may come to life again. The little prince interrupted. But does that mean ephemeral? Whether volcanoes are extinct or alive, it comes to the same thing for us, said the geographer. The thing that matters to us is the mountains. It does not change. But what does that mean? Ephemeral, repeated the little prince, who never in his life had let go of a question once he had asked it. It means, which is in danger of speedy disappearance. Is my flower in danger of speedy disappearance? Certainly it is. My flower is ephemeral, the little prince said to himself, and she has only 4 thorns to defend herself against the world. And I have left her on my planet, all alone. But that was his first moment of regret. But he took courage once more. What place would you advise me to visit now? He asked. Planet Earth, said the geographer. It has a good reputation. And the little prince went away, thinking of his flower. So then the 7th planet was the Earth. The Earth is not just an ordinary planet. One can count their 111 kings, not forgetting to be sure the Negro kings among them. 7,000 geographers, 900,000 businessmen, 7,500 million tipplers, 311 million conceited men, that is to say, about 2 billion grown-ups. To give you an idea of what the size of the Earth is, I will tell you that before the invention of electricity, it was necessary to maintain over the whole of the 6 continents a veritable army of 462,511 lamplighters for the street lamps. Seen from a slight distance, that would make a splendid spectacle. The movements of this army would be regulated like those of the ballet in the opera. First would come the turn of the lamplighters of New Zealand and Australia. Having set their lamps alight, these would go off to sleep. Next, the lamplighters of China and Siberia would enter for their steps in the dance, and then they too would be waved back into the wings. After that would come the turn of the lamplighters of Russia and the Indies, then those of Africa and Europe, then those of South America, and then those of North America. And never would they make a mistake in order of their entry upon the stage. It would be magnificent. Only the man who was in charge of the single lamp at the North Pole, and his colleague who was responsible at the single lamp at the South Pole. Only these two would live far from the toil and care. They would be busy twice a year.
Introducing Storyteller Eve.
Chapter 17. When one wishes to play the wit, he sometimes wanders a little from the truth. I have not been altogether honest in what I have told you about the lamplighters, and I realize that I run the risk of giving a false idea of our planet to those who do not know it. Men occupy a very small space upon the earth. If the 2 billion inhabitants who people its surface were all to stand upright and somewhat crowded together, as they do for some big public assembly, they could easily be put into one public square 20 miles long and 20 miles wide. All humanity could be piled upon a small Pacific islet. The grown-ups, to be sure, will not believe you when you tell them that. They imagine that they fill a great deal of space. They fancy themselves as important as the boabs. You should advise them, then, to make their own calculations. They adore figures, and that will please them. But do not waste your time on this extra task. It is unnecessary. You have, I know, confidence in me. When the little prince arrived on the earth, he was very much surprised not to see any people. He was beginning to be afraid he had come to the wrong planet, when a coil of gold, the color of moonlight, flashed across the sand. "Good evening," said the little prince courteously. "Good evening," said the snake. "What planet is this on which I have come down?" asked the little prince. "This is the earth. This is Africa," the snake answered. "Ah, then there are no people on the earth?" "This is the desert. There are no people in the desert. The earth is large," said the snake. The little prince sat down on a stone and raised his eyes toward the sky. "I wonder," he said, "whether the stars are set alight in heaven so that one day each one of us may find his own again. Look at my planet. It is right there above us. But how far away it is!" "It is beautiful," said the snake. "What has brought you here?" "I have been having some trouble with a flower," said the little prince. "Ah," said the snake. And they were both silent. "Where are the men?" said the little prince. At last took up the conversation again. "It is a little lonely in the desert. It is also lonely among men," said the snake. The little prince gazed at him for a long time. "You are a funny animal," he said at last. "You are no thicker than a finger." "But I am more powerful than the finger of a king," said the snake. The little prince smiled. "You are not very powerful. You haven't even any feet. You cannot even travel." "I can carry you farther than any ship could take you," said the snake. He twined himself around the little prince's ankle like a golden bracelet. "Whomever I touch, I send back to the earth from whence they came," the snake spoke again. "But you are innocent and true, and you come from a star." The little prince made no reply. "You move me to pity. You are so weak on this earth made of granite," the snake said. "I can help you someday if you grow too homesick for your own planet. I can." "Oh, I understand you very well," said the little prince. "But why do you always speak in riddles?" "I solve them all," said the snake, and they were both silent. Chapter 18. The little prince crossed the desert and met with only one flower. It was a flower with 3 petals, a flower of no account at all. "Good morning," said the little prince. "Good morning," said the flower. "Where are the men?" the little prince asked, politely. The flower had once seen a caravan passing. "Men?" she echoed. "I think there are 6 or 7 of them in existence. I saw them several years ago, but one never knows where to find them. The wind blows them away. They have no roots, and that makes their life very difficult." "Goodbye," said the little prince. "Goodbye," said the flower.
Ang daming nakilala ng ating munting prinsipe sa episode na ito, no? The king, the conceited man, the dibbler, the businessman, the lamplighter, at ang geographer. Pati Earth ay napuntahan niya. Sana naman hindi siya na-overwhelm sa dami natin, ano? Isang conceited man pa nga lang. Stressful na. Paano pa kaya pag 311 million? Pero sa tingin niyo, sino sa kanila ang pinakalunod sa matters of consequence? Sa tingin niyo ba posible sa panahon na ito na ihiwalay natin ang ating sarili sa pag-iisip ng consequences? Pag-usapan natin yan sa comment section. If you want to listen to more episodes like this, i-click ang subscribe button at i-follow ang aming YouTube channel. Maraming salamat sa pakikinig. Ako si Joy, ang inyong storyteller para sa episode na ito. At ito ang Yes You Can Read, The Little Prince, kung saan ang pagbabasa ay hindi lamang para sa mata, kundi ipinapakinggan at nadarama.
Sa susunod na episode, tuloy lang ang pagkwento ng prinsipe ng kanyang mga alaala sa piloto. Mula sa mga nakilala niya, puti ang mga nabuong pagkakaibigan. Sa bawat kwento at lakbay, unti-unting natututo ang prinsipe ng mga bagong perspektibo na magpapatungo sa sagot na kanyang hinahanap. Ngunit sa paglalakbay na iyon, may panganib na nakaabang sa ating munting prinsipe. Ano kaya ang mangyayari sa kwento nila ng piloto? Abangan ito sa next episode. Yes, We Can Read is the University of the Philippines Literature Club's pilot vodcast. Ang aming direktor ay si Kimlea Banaay. Ang producer ay si Kath Olivares at ang editorial assistant ay si Peter Reyes. Ang episode na ito ay sinulat ni Jean Eugenio, Peter Reyes, Chandra Bosella at Deng Liames at ine-edit ni Kimlea Banaay. The graphics of this episode were designed by Zoe Ramirez, J.M. Awayan, Bobby Hernandez at Kimlea Banaay. Ang aming set ay inayos ni Audrey Diaz, Kath Olivares, Deng Liames, Bobby Hernandez, Angel Pascual, Ash Cintillas, Ron Brigais, Mikmik Costales at Kimlea Banaay. Sa ilalim ng pag-oorganisa ni Iris Palan, pag-compose ni AJ Pascual. Ang storyteller kanina ay sina Joy Francisco at Eve Fontanilla. Ang boses na narinig nyo ngayon ay si Ash Cintillas. Filmed at the UPLB University Library with Kath Olivares, Kimlea Banaay, and Ron Bragais as our camera crew. Deng Liames, Kath Olivares, and Bobby Hernandez as our audio technicians. AJ Pascual, Bobby Hernandez, Eve Fontanilla, Ash Cintillas, and Mikmik Costales as our production assistants. Ang ating kwento ngayong season, The Little Prince, ay unang sinulat sa French ni Antoine de Saint-Exupéry noong 1943. Kung gusto nyo pa kaming makasama magbasa, click subscribe kung kayo ay nasa YouTube channel at i-follow nyo kami sa @UP Lit Club sa Instagram at Facebook.